Hi, everybody. It's Eric Murray from SugarHuddle.com. Well, it's conference championship game weekend. We're one game away from deciding who's going to play on Super Bowl Sunday in a couple weeks from now. It's funny because last week I mentioned how it feels like there's more parity this postseason than previous years, and yet here we are, conference championship game weekend, and all the number 1 and 2 seeds are still alive. It's funny because I thought there'd be some really good games last weekend, and on the AFC side at least, they're terrible games because they were blowouts. Of course, the Patriots annihilated the Chargers. They had a 35-7 lead by halftime, ended up winning by 13. And then the Chiefs game the same way. They were blowing out the Colts by halftime, and they ran away from that game as well. NFC side is a lot more competitive. Of course, the Rams beat the Cowboys by 8, and the Saints beat the Eagles by 6, a game that, of course, the Eagles could have very easily won there at the end. But nonetheless, two really, really intriguing conference title games. You've got the number 2 seed Patriots traveling to Arrowhead Stadium to play the Chiefs. Of course, that's a rematch from the regular season Sunday night game, of course, that the Patriots won at home in Foxborough 43-40. And then, of course, the Rams and the Saints, the Rams, the 2 seed, traveling to New Orleans, the 1 seed inside the Superdome. That, of course, will be the early game, the 3:05 game, the AFC game, the 6:40 game. And anyways, that game is also a rematch. Remember, that was the Rams' first loss of the season. That was a Week 9 game. And the Saints were able to win that one 45-35. So let's start off with that game. Listen, that's the early one. So, 45-35, it was the regular season outcome. It was a back-and-forth game. Remember, the Saints were up pretty big at halftime, and then the Rams were able to come all the way back, actually tied it at 35 in the fourth quarter, and then suddenly the Saints ran away with it again. They were up by a field goal. Of course, Drew Brees had that long touchdown pass to Michael Thomas to make a 10-point game, and that was all she wrote. And, the thing about it is the Saints offense is still a really good offense, but they haven't been nearly as powerful, haven't been nearly as potent since that game. Second half of the season, they've had some up and down games. The Rams have been kind of in the same boat. They're a team that you look at Jared Goff, he's had a lot of uneven, all over the place performances. And I thought last weekend he played a lot better than his numbers, because last weekend I think he was only like 15 of 28 for $186. But he played a lot better than that. Of course, he had that huge first down that he ran for late in the game against the Cowboys. So it's going to be interesting because, Saints, for as bad of a secondary as they have and all the points they gave up to the Rams last time in New Orleans, remember, they have the number 2 run defense in all of football, and they haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher, not only all season, but actually in like the last 25 games, I believe. So the Saints aren't going to really let the Rams, run all over them the way that the Cowboys did last week when the Rams set a franchise playoff rushing record with 273 yards. But, when you got Todd Gurley and you got C.J. Anderson, who they signed off the street a few weeks ago, has been so great for the Rams, you kind of wonder if maybe this is the week where the Saints run defense kind of falters, because when you think about it, the Saints, one of their big guys, defensive tackle Sheldon Rankins, he's out for this game. So, he's gone. His 8 sacks is gone. So that takes a little bit of pressure off of Jared Goff, because we know he struggles with pressure in his face. So it's going to help Goff. It's going to loosen up the Saint defense, because they're going to be looking for the pass, and all of a sudden the Rams will be able to run the football. So I think that's a big thing that you have to look for. And I think another thing, too, when you think about it is, the Rams, if they're going to win this game, if they're going to beat the Saints, they have to keep Drew Brees and the Saints offense off the field, and they have to control the time of possession. So I think that's something that you'll see the Rams do. They don't have to rush for 273 yards to beat the Saints, as long as Jared Goff has a pretty good game. But I could see them rushing for 150-plus against New Orleans, in New Orleans, keeping Drew Brees off the field, taking the crowd out of it. And I think another big thing, too, that you have to think about is, when you think about the 2 interceptions that the Saints had last weekend, one was off of Alshon Jeffrey's hands to basically end the game, and the early one, Nick Foles took a shot downfield, and it was basically a jump ball, and it was well covered by Marshawn Lattimore. Lattimore had both interceptions. So those weren't really the Saints, making amazing plays. It was kind of 2 fluky interceptions to a certain extent. But I look at the Rams. I think they learned a lot from that first matchup against the Saints. I don't think they're going to allow 45 points again, even though they're not like a great defense by any means, but it's pretty good defense. Marcus Peters, of course, is fired up. Him and Sean Payton kind of have that little spat. He of course is ticked off because of that blown coverage against Michael Thomas last time around when they played. And actually, remember, Aqib Talib didn't play that game. Talib's actually going to be the one covering Michael Thomas, and Michael Thomas is the only receiver that's really been making plays in the Saints passing game. He's a guy that runs a lot of deep in routes. He's one of the best receivers in football, but if they can stop that deep in route, I think they're going to have a good chance, the Rams on the road, to steal this win. The Eagles to go up 14-0 last weekend in the divisional playoffs was so impressive, and nobody really saw it coming. And even though they ultimately blew it, I think that definitely opened the door for the Rams to steal this game. So I think the Rams are going to win that one. AFC side, though, I think it's going to be the home team. I think it's going to be the Chiefs. They're ultimately going to beat the Patriots. What the Patriots did last weekend shocked me, shocked a lot of people, and so it's kind of like, well, it's hard to pick against Patriots because of Tom Brady and Belichick in the postseason. And of course, now they're doing this whole, kind of cheesy underdog thing about how nobody believes in us and everybody thinks we suck. But the thing is, the Patriots are 3-5 on the road, undefeated at home, 3-5 on the road. The weather is not going to be as big of a factor as far as the snow and the temperature. It's going to be like 22 degrees now. Brady's, arguably the best cold weather quarterback ever. He's 14-2 when it's under 32 degrees, I believe, or 32 or under. But Pat Mahomes is 3-0, so he's gotten used to playing some bad weather in Kansas City. The weather, if you talk about the field conditions, was a lot worse in Kansas City last week against the Colts than it was for the Patriots against the Chargers when they were at home playing on turf. Didn't have to worry about any snow. So I think because of that, now all of a sudden Pat Mahomes, he can have that Brett Favre-like creativity that we see out of him every single week, and suddenly he's going to be able to, make things happen against a Patriots secondary that, remember, gave up 40 points in Foxborough last time they played. Remember, it was a 43-40 Patriot win. The Chiefs were down like 24-9 at the half. Mahomes didn't play that great, and then all of a sudden, him and Tyreek Hill, they just annihilated the Patriots secondary in the second half of that game. So I think that's going to be an interesting thing to look at. And I think on the other side of it, we know Tom Brady has never been, he's been a dink and dunk quarterback his entire career. And a lot of people, Patriots fans, get defensive when you say that, but it's true. But it's obviously worked because he's had so much success with it, won all these championships, so certainly he's doing something right. But the thing is, we saw him do it so well against the Chargers last weekend. Kansas City doesn't have a very good defense. Obviously, though, they look terrific against the Colts. So can Kansas City's defense do it again for another week? And the main thing is, if you take the short passing game away from Brady and you do just enough against their running game, because Patriots have a terrific running game right now. Last week, Sony Michel, I think, had like 3 rushing touchdowns. If you limit the rushing attack of the Patriots and you take away a lot of that underneath passing, especially to guys like Julian Edelman, who, of course, is now second all-time in playoff receptions, only behind Jerry Rice. If you take that away and you force Brady to throw downfield, it becomes a challenge, because there was another graphic I saw on ESPN tonight where it said that Brady, when the temperature is like 32 or below, his touchdown interception ratio is like 1.1, which basically means he has as many touchdowns as interceptions, or vice versa, however you want to look at it. So the graphic was when he tries to throw 15 yards or more downfield, when the temperature is below 32 degrees, his touchdown interception ratio is 1.1. So basically the key anytime you play the Patriots, and especially in cold weather, obviously, looking at that stat, is you got to force Brady to throw down the field. So I think the combination of Dee Ford and Chris Jones, plus Justin Houston had a really nice game against the Colts. If those guys can kind of step it up and somehow force Brady to kind of stretch it down the field and not kind of get those nice little underneath passes, it'll be interesting to see if the Patriots can pull it off, because we know, Philip Dorsett, he can make some big catches, but there's no Josh Gordon anymore, obviously. Chris Hogan, he's made a couple big catches this year, but he's not non-existent a lot of times. Running backs are running mainly shorter routes. Edelman, mainly shorter routes. Gronkowski, he's, not really a factor much anymore. So, the way I look at it is if Mahomes can kind of do his thing and not play nervous, can play loose, it's going to become a shootout like last time. And I don't think the Patriots want that. I think they want this to be more of a defensive struggle. we'll see if their defense can hold up, but I think Kansas City has enough for them. And I think Kansas City, even though they're the favorites, it would be kind of an upset in a weird way because they're playing the Patriots. So we'll see. But anyways, please go to sugarhuddle.com. Please like my Facebook page, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you.